What's up, guys? It's Zach with Upstairs Studio, back at it again with another video. Finally, after like a month. I apologize for being gone for so long. Have a new job, new chair, all kinds of stuff going on in life. All good things, but I do apologize for taking so long to get back. So if we are meeting for the first time, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to check out my channel and videos and stuff like that. I really do appreciate it. The goal of Upstairs Studio is to help beginner and intermediate home musicians and engineers elevate their sounds. And if you're new on this journey, then I have down in the description a free guide for you. It's going to be a beginner's guide to starting recording at home. It's going to give you a good foundation to build off of, and it's going to have some bullet points and just some good information in there. So if you're new to this, go ahead, check that out. So with that being said, today we are diving into madness, and we are going to be talking about the age-old question that will always continue to be asked and will never be answered: which DAW should I use? Here we go. I cover this in one of my other videos. You can check that out up here. That's gonna go over some of the, I touched on it a little bit, but this is gonna be a little more of a, not necessarily a deep dive, but it's going to be a little more in depth than just touching on it. And I told myself I was never gonna do this because it's just, there's so many caveats, exceptions, if, and, but, yeah, what about this? And it's such a loaded question. Like there's just a lot. So, just take everything that I'm about to say with a grain of salt and, acknowledge the fact that I can't answer every question ever in a video. So I want to frame this a little bit differently than a typical DAW video. There's a lot of videos out there that are just use Pro Tools, use Logic. It's just pushing that DAW, when really I think that it's better to answer it with some questions. So I'm gonna start it that way, have a couple questions that you need to answer for yourself, and then I'm gonna give my advice at the end of the video. So stick around for that. All right, so in no particular order, here we go. Question number one, and I think this is, even though I just said there's no particular order, I think this is an important one. Well, they're all important. How serious are you wanting to take this? Are you wanting to just be a hobbyist and this be something that you just do for fun, record some songs, do covers or whatever, whether you're gonna upload them to YouTube, Instagram, and just kind of do for fun to fill time? If that's your situation, then maybe you need to look at a cheap or free DAW. Like Audacity is a good one. That's definitely a very beginner friendly. That's what way back in the day, that was the first one that I ever had. And it's a good way to get your feet wet with recording because it's fairly simple. There's not a ton to do in it, which is kind of nice when you're starting out because you don't need a jillion buttons to click on. You don't need all these sends, returns, all this stuff. If you're just recording a single instrument or your voice or something, you don't really need a whole swath of options. Or maybe you're doing freelance work. Maybe this is something that you're trying to turn into a job. Then it might be good to use, it would be good to use Pro Tools, Logic, Reaper, things like that. Something that's a little more robust, has a little more options in it. You also don't want to be limiting yourself if you are elevating and you're getting past the Audacity days or the just a couple input days. Question number two, it can be a pretty vague answer, so this is definitely one to take with a grain of salt. What genre are you looking to do? If you're looking to do like electronic music, Ableton Live might be a good option for you. That can also do a million other things, so don't think that Ableton Live is only good for electronic music because it can do a ton of other stuff. Then there's also FL Studio. That was the change that I made. I went from Audacity to FL Studio because that was generally what I was working on, as I was doing a lot of like synthesizers and plugins and keyboard type things like that. And FL is very well optimized, has good workflow for that style. The default beat pads or beat pattern or whatever you want to call it, it's like the first thing that pops up with the default view of the software. So it's great for just opening it up and then bam, being able to start putting a beat together. So it's really good for doing genres like that. And then question number three, I think some people might argue that this is the most important one. But again, it's not necessarily a particular order. What's your budget? Are you looking to spend $500? Are you looking to spend $100? And a quick note with this, dollars do not equate to professionalism. Just because I haven't even looked at DAW prices for a while, I can post those down in the description. Just because it costs, $500 for Pro Tools doesn't mean you're going to all of a sudden have, outstanding mixes or phenomenal recordings. A lot of it comes down to just your knowledge and your ability as a musician or an engineer. You can't pay for that. It doesn't matter how much money you spend. Another good example for that is Reaper. Reaper is based off of a donation system. I think the minimum donation is like $60 or $70, which is really not much at all for how versatile and powerful of a tool Reaper is. But you can get into it for very, very cheap, and you get so much stuff. There's tons of free plugins that aren't necessarily created by Kakos. They're the company who created Reaper. But they have some great plugins, some default plugins, but there's also so many other ones that you don't have to pay for. There's this misconception in really just in life in general that you have to pay a lot of money in order to get good results, and that's just not the case, especially with DAWs or digital audio workstations. I just realized that it's been this whole time since I hadn't explained what that stands for. So kind of get that out of your head and just tell yourself, or ask yourself rather, what's my budget? What can I afford? And stick with it and find something that works. All right, so my answer to this question is find something that you can confidently answer all these questions with, and just don't change. Stay with it. Just use that one DAW for a very, very, very long time. And, maybe, dabble in other ones over time once you're really comfortable with one and you're able to work very seamlessly through a recording session or whatever you're trying to do, and just master that software. Obviously, it's good to do demos or try a friend's version of something, or look up videos on YouTube, wherever, and learn about them. Because definitely do your research, because they're your hard-earned dollars. You should be able to spend them wisely. Personally, I use Reaper. I'm always going to plug it because I love it. I learned on Pro Tools. Like I said, I've used Audacity FL. I used Logic for a little bit. And find what one works best for you in whatever workflow. Even if it's GarageBand, that's fine. You can get some pretty decent stuff out of there. Just find something that checks off these boxes, use it for a long time, master it, and then it doesn't matter, because the music is the music. No one listens to music and is like, oh, I bet they made this in Logic, or I bet they made this in Reaper, or I bet they made this in Cubase. No one thinks that when they're listening to your song. So just find one, master it, stick with it. And something else that I'd like to add to that is pretty much all DAWs are really solid now. They have an awesome community for the most part, and they have good support from the developers. So you really can't miss with this one. You just need to find one that fits your situation, fits your circumstance, fits your budget, and then again, stick with it and master it. All right, so it's so easy to get way out in the weeds with this topic. I mean, you could talk forever about it and argue back and forth on which one's better and which one makes the most sense and why this and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, thank you guys so much for sticking with me to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. How's your day? Let me know in the comment section. I'd love to hear about it. And if there's anything else that you guys like to hear, let me know. This is something that I'm doing for you guys. I want to bring value to you and bring some understanding to how this all works, and offer any expertise or wisdom that I have in it. So if you could just let me know in the comment section. If you enjoy what you see here, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.